Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the actual science behind the hydrogen economy to see if it's truly the ultimate solution for our evolving renewable energy grid. We're going to dive straight into the data together and see what the chemistry and engineering are really telling us.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering Section 1, the renewable storage problem. Section 2, why hydrogen is a carrier, not a source. Section 3, the trials of production and storage. Section 4, the magic of fuel cells. And finally, Section 5, hydrogen versus lithium batteries. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the renewable storage problem.
So, to understand why everyone is suddenly talking about hydrogen, we have to look at the massive elephant in the room, grid-scale intermittency. You see, while stuff like biomass is relatively easy to physically store, the electricity produced from solar panels and wind turbines poses a huge, immediate storage challenge. We face this constant race against the clock to capture that excess power before it literally just vanishes.
Basically, we need a better bucket to hold our renewable energy. You might be wondering, well, what about batteries? Traditional batteries just aren't a viable option right now for large-scale municipal grid storage. They hit strict capacity limits, and the costs at that massive scale are just astronomical. It's a severe bottleneck that our local grids are struggling with today, which is exactly why scientists are frantically searching for a different kind of bucket. And honestly, that perfectly sets the stage for hydrogen.
Which brings us to Section 2, carrier, not a source.
A lot of people tend to think hydrogen is this magical, brand new reserve of energy. Like striking oil or finding a fresh natural gas deposit. But is that actually true from a scientific perspective? Because if we want to realistically power the future, we have to be crystal clear about what our fuel actually is.
Here's the crucial distinction. Hydrogen is an energy carrier. It is not an energy source. What does that mean for us? Think of it this way. Hydrogen is the tanker truck transporting the energy. It's not the oil well itself. There are absolutely no vast reserves of pure hydrogen gas just bubbling under the Earth's crust waiting for us to tap into.
This thought really hits the nail on the head. And there's a staggering irony here, right? Hydrogen is literally the most plentiful element in the universe. It makes up about 3/4 of all matter. But free, unattached hydrogen is incredibly scarce here on Earth. To actually get our hands on it, it has to be painstakingly produced. We have to consume electricity or burn other fuels just to rip it away from molecules like water or methane.
Let's move on to Section 3, the production and storage trials.
We essentially have two main pathways to get this stuff. First up, steam reforming. Right now, most hydrogen is made this way using natural gas. Sure, it's the cheaper method, but it heavily relies on fossil fuels and pumps out carbon emissions. On the flip side, we have water electrolysis. This splits water into hydrogen and oxygen using renewable electricity. Zero emissions. Sounds perfect, right? Well, it's incredibly expensive. To put the hurdle into perspective, an ideal water electrolysis process requires over 117,000 kilojoules of energy just to make 1 single kilogram of hydrogen. That is a massive amount of energy.
And let's say we finally have our usable hydrogen. Storing it is a whole other beast because of its incredibly low density. You essentially have 3 options. 1, you cryogenically freeze it down to near absolute zero. We're talking minus 253 degrees Celsius. 2, you use extreme compression, packing it into heavy carbon fiber tanks at pressure levels up to 70 megapascals. Or 3, and this sounds straight out of sci-fi, you use solid metal hydrides. Certain metals can actually absorb about 3.5% of their mass as hydrogen, holding it securely like a sponge and releasing it only when slightly heated.
All right, let's dive into Section 4, the magic of fuel cells. Now, what's really interesting about small-scale hydrogen fuel cells is how wild the underlying technology is. They don't burn fuel like a traditional combustion engine. Instead, they directly convert chemical energy into electricity electrochemically. Basically, hydrogen ions flow through an electrolyte while electrons are forced through an outside circuit, like a motor, and boom, you've got an electrical current. It completely bypasses that messy, highly inefficient process of burning fuel to create heat.
And the chemistry here gets absolutely fascinating. Because those hydrogen ions simply combine with oxygen at the cathode, at the end of the process, the only exhaust from this futuristic engine is water. Perfectly drinkable, pure water. No carbon monoxide, no nasty hydrocarbons, just H2O. How amazing is that?
Plus, because fuel cells aren't heat engines, they aren't held back by the Carnot cycle, those strict thermodynamic rules that govern traditional combustion. As a result, hydrogen fuel cells boast a mind-blowing theoretical first-law efficiency limit of 94.5%. When you compare that to a modern gasoline engine, which sits way down around 30% efficiency, you see exactly why engineers are pouring so much time and money into this research.
And it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all deal. There is a remarkably diverse family of fuel cell types out there for different jobs. Alkaline fuel cells famously provided electricity and drinking water for the Apollo spacecraft. Today, we use proton-exchanged membrane cells because they're small and responsive for automobiles. And on the larger scale, we have phosphoric acid fuel cells. In fact, there's a remote police station right in the middle of New York's Central Park running cleanly on a 200-kilowatt fuel cell right this second. This isn't just theoretical future tech, it's already quietly powering parts of our world today.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, hydrogen versus lithium batteries. Looking at the data head-to-head, both of these technologies face some intense weight challenges. Hydrogen is incredibly energy-dense on its own, but when you factor in hauling around those heavy 70 megapascal tanks and the fuel cell stack itself, the specific energy of a vehicle system drops to about 1,700 kilojoules per kilogram. Still, that is roughly double the 840 kilojoules per kilogram you get from a current commercial lithium-ion battery. Hydrogen also offers much faster refueling times, and it's a big but, lithium batteries currently sidestep the need to build a massive, multi-billion-dollar new pipeline infrastructure.
So ultimately, it leaves us with a really tough question. Which set of engineering challenges are we actually better equipped to overcome as we race to power our grid? Do we accept the intensive mining and capacity limits of lithium? Or do we tackle the colossal infrastructure and storage hurdles of the hydrogen economy? The science is very clear on what both can achieve, but the path we choose is going to fundamentally reshape the energy systems we rely on every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity to look a little deeper into the energy grids powering our lives.